welcome everybody to this week's Cafecito Power Break. We're excited for today. This is going to be a great conversation. There's a lot I want to ask you in reference to. So, our guest today is Yoly Valencia. She's a real estate pro. She's also the founder of Latinas Who Trade. So, we are going to be diving into and commercial real estate, right? Because we've talked about this, and I love that aspect that you bring and that you're involved in, because the commercial real estate market has always interested me. So we're going to dive in. But before we do, guys, I want to remind you, first of all, welcome to United Latinas. We have two upcoming events. The first one is next week on May 25th is our Latina leadership meeting. Make sure that you register for that one. And then on June 8th, we have a very interesting event with Christina Costa, self-advocacy for Latinas. So those are going to be some dope events. Make sure that you register. Hopefully you have your cafecito, your tea, your mud water. That's what I'm drinking today. What are you drinking?
This tea.
Well, welcome, Yoly. Give us a formal introduction. Tell us a little, because you're involved in so many things that are so exciting, and I want to hear. We want to hear.
Awesome. Well, Sandra, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be on your special session here with some cafecito. And so a little bit about me. I'm a first generation Latina. I'm a daughter of immigrants. My parents migrated from Mexico to the city of Chicago. And it was through real estate that they were able to really build wealth. And I think from that, I learned a lot, but also realized what I didn't have in my network growing up as well. So um, I am a global real estate professional, like you mentioned. I pivoted into real estate about 6 years ago. Prior to that, I come with almost 20 years of banking experience, and here I am now aging myself. I started when I was 5, and um, and
Yes.
so real estate is something that's always fascinated me. Unfortunately, it's an industry, especially commercial real estate, where you don't see people that look like you and I, right? And so part of my goal is to change that narrative, change the way it looks. Commercial real estate is very lucrative. It accounts for almost 70% of the world's wealth. And why aren't we part of that industry? So that's part of my mission. And then also, just from my own experiences growing up, establishing a family, raising a family, and maneuvering through my career, I realized that a regular day to day job, 9 to 5, was not going to cut it for me to live the lifestyle that I dreamt of, and while also providing for my children. And that's when I really got into the financial literacy aspect and founded Latinas Who Trade, Latinas Who Invest. I also have the platform Wealth with Yoly, which is a website where you can find resources and find time to connect with me. But the goal is to ensure that my community, our community, understands that we too can be millionaires. We too can build wealth. Many of us are first generation that come from parents, families where they migrated from countries where the stock market didn't exist like it does here in the US. So that understanding is not there. And so my goal is to educate and ensure, especially young Latinas, and this is another way that I see will allow us to close that wage gap, right? That we see that it's Latinas at the bottom of the list always, and how can we do our part to change that? And I think financial literacy is very important in that aspect.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much that I want to cover on there. Let's start with the trading factor, because people see Latinas who trade. Okay, am I going to learn how to trade the stock market? What platform should I be doing that on? What are your thoughts overall? I know you have a lot.
Yeah. So a funny story. So the way Latinas Who Trade started, which was a really like a project, a passion project, while I was pursuing my MBA in real estate finance and investments. And at that time, I was stepping down from a board. I was overseeing the summer enrichment program in the city of Chicago. I was directing that program for the summer, which focused on educating high school students from underserved community and exposing them to the world of business. So we would pay for everything, And through sponsors, we would build relationships. And this was like outside of my day-to-day job. And it was to expose these underserved individuals, predominantly Black and Brown, that were coming in, and to expose them to the world of business. We put them in front of Latinos from Google, from the Federal Reserve, from Telemundo, from NBC, from the Federal Reserve Bank. And we just wanted to make sure that these young adults that were getting ready to transition out of high school and into college could see themselves in these roles. And so as I was getting ready to step down from that role, that, it was a board that I was sitting on, I was just reflecting on what was my biggest takeaway that I saw. What was the biggest deficiency? And for me, it was the young girls that came from similar backgrounds that I came from, which was, you know, um, parents migrated from Mexico, very strong cultural background where um, a lot of that machismo existed, where I grew up hearing, de la casa no sale si no es casada. And that for me was, how can I help these girls, start thinking and believing in themselves? And one of them was, let me teach them about trading, about the stock market, because nowhere around them were they going to be receiving this information. So it started with that, as educating these young Latinas, first generation, and it slowly evolved because after I started talking more about educating about the stock market, what it really is, um, understanding the aspects of it that is more like gambling versus if you have a long-term plan. And other individuals, men and women and of all ages started approaching me like, I need help. Like, I don't understand this. And then that's when I realized that, financial literacy was much bigger than just my focus in young Latinas. But I think that us focusing on those young Latinas also makes a great impact. But yeah, so that's how Latinas Who Trade started, and it's just grown and evolved. So now I have like all these different pieces of the pie with Latinas Who Invest, Latinas Who Trade, and Wealth with Yoly.
That is so awesome. So, is there a specific age market? Was it the high school for like, or has it evolved to us, to all, people in their 40s and 50s? And,
It all ages. I think
yeah,
every aspect really has a need, right? If
yeah.
you're older, do you have a retirement plan yet? If not, then we probably
Our
should start.
community does it mostly because we
Right,
grew up where we're like we're doing this on this portion of our life going forward now, but it wasn't really what when you're born in the 70s, kind of like
right,
in that era, you still had that conditioning all the way up to.
right. And and I feel in our community we're constantly thinking about, oh, well, I'll have the Social Security benefit, but Social Security is running out. And then if
Yeah.
you're following the debt ceiling matter, I mean, if they don't come up with a solution and address the debt ceiling, Social Security payments are not going to be made.
Yeah.
So, it's also trying to understand what's going on in today's news, right? The
Yeah.
economy and how it really impacts us. Sometimes we think there's no direct impact to us, but there is, especially if you're somebody that's retired that only relies on Social Security.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what the cutoff for that of the like in age, is it still the baby boomers versus because is it baby boomers and then Gen X? Or is there one in the middle? No, I think we're after baby boom. Gen X is after baby boomers, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
in reference to like I don't even think about Social Security. Like that is, I
right.
think that is what is definitely part even of the stem of United Latinas is empowering women to be, and everyone in general, to be independent and to have multiple sources of income and to be we're in a creator economy. So you have to think about, even if you're a professional or an executive, you have to think about those, what can I do that I don't have to depend on anybody else? And what are the how do I spread myself out so that my later years in life are not struggling, or depending on a system that it doesn't look out for its people, you know. So
Exactly. And the other thing too that I think we don't realize also is the importance of securing our lives. You know, we insure our iPhones, we insure our cars, we get home insurance, but we're not willing to get insurance for our family members, for ourselves,
Mhm.
especially when you look at healthcare. Our
Yeah.
healthcare today is so broken, right? I always use the analogy that, okay, here I am, you know, as most of you know, my target is to be the first multimillionaire in my family. And I'm like always looking at the numbers and always saying, what do I need to do different? How can I, you know, get to this point? But I also think about, okay, if I were to get sick, terminally ill, or critical illness, which we've all seen, COVID taught us many lessons, is my wealth going to go to paying for healthcare? And then what do I leave as far as generational wealth for my children, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where a proper life insurance policy would come in, because now it's not just a death benefit. There's so many misinformation that drives me nuts on, you know, with social media and influencers and like the anti-life insurance. And it's like, you don't realize what that means if you were to get sick, because it's not just a death benefit anymore. They offer living benefits, which would cover you if you came across a terminal illness or a critical illness, etc.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation we could get
Right.
into. For sure. So what do you think are the core pillars to building wealth? Like what areas of focus? Certainly a healthy life insurance policy, but what others? What like with trading, with real estate? Like what are the pillars you
Well,
think?
the number one is, I always say the biggest investment you can do is investing in yourself is through education. I like many, don't agree in having to pay for a financial advisor. I think the information is readily available to us nowadays than when I was growing up, for us to really know how to best approach our finances. And then there's individuals like myself where we do coaching, etc. But you know, I just don't believe in having to charge somebody that's already in need. And so educating in yourself and doing your research and really talking to the right individuals, right? Finances are not one size fits all. I say it's like going to the doctor. When you go to the doctor, they're not going to say, "Oh, I just gave that person this prescription, so here you take it too." No, right? We need to do a whole
Some
analysis.
doctors.
Yeah, right. They're just turning people around
Yeah.
now. Um, yeah, and so it's, they have to do a full like physical, right? So it's the same for your finances. We need to do a full financial analysis. You need to be honest too when it comes to putting pen to paper, as far as all the income that's coming in and then all the expenses that are going out, because then from there you would have a better idea how much more aggressive you need to be, depending what period in your life you're in, or how much of a better position you are, and not realizing, and your subconscious was probably making you feel guilty because you never took the time to look at it when you might be in a great position. And the other main thing is, you know, we need to learn to live below our means. It will pay off. Like, we live in a society where it seems like keeping up with the Joneses is a big deal. And credit, right? We get into credit card debt, and it's just very unfortunate, because once you start getting into that credit card debt, it's really hard to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is you certainly can't spend. I never understand. I never got any, even since I was a young, when I first got my first card, I never got into anything drastic. And I think that always scared me, being in a negative, not being able to pay for
Yeah.
it. So I've always been very diligent with that. But let's pivot a little bit to commercial real estate. Because I think that is like something that is worth entertain. Well, even residential, like, would you consider residential? Yeah, residential, even residential homes that are two-family homes. Are they considered under the commercial real estate or no? Because it's really
Um,
not a business running out of there, but it's,
right.
yeah,
It's
I don't know.
it's multifamily, still falls under residential.
Okay.
So, you know, it's funny because us as Latinos, we are huge. We are all over that residential real estate. That is the way we define the American dream, which is great. I mean, I reflect back on my parents. We were a family of 7 on one income, but my dad, paid for his first multi-family. It was a 4-unit building where one unit became home for us. And that's how he built his wealth, right? He never had a mortgage. He paid it cash. And that's another story of his experience of walking into a bank as a person of color with cash in hand saying, I have the money to buy again, buy a property and not understanding the process, right? Or the system. But commercial real estate is so big when it comes to the careers, right, within corporate America, but also as an investor, right? We have REITs, the real estate trust funds. The careers are endless, and so yet when you walk into a commercial real estate firm, you don't see many people that look like us. It's majority is white old men, and so there's going to be a change, right? There's just going to be a change in wealth, and there's going to be a change in leadership roles as these older white men are prepared to retire. And we need to make sure that we're there ready to take on these roles, to take on this wealth. And so that's why I say it's very important for us to take the time to educate ourselves and understand, the full aspect, the full pie of what building wealth looks like.
Yeah, it's funny. I got the reminder on Facebook today that I got my real estate license in New Jersey this day in 2000. I don't know. It was like 11 years ago or something like that, 11, 12 years ago.
Nice.
But I didn't do anything with it because my heart wasn't in residential. It was in commercial. And I remember at that time, there was a large commercial real estate. They're huge now. I mean, they were huge then. But, when we think about opportunities and going after opportunities, I remember I literally picked up the phone and called the office and said, I need to meet with you guys. And I met with the CEO, and he's like, I didn't have any experience in real estate, 0. Now he's like, you gotta sell some residential first. I'm like, I have no interest in residential. So he brought me into the office, and he's like, I brought you in because you picked up the phone and called me. And where most people they don't put in that, those ganas that, especially as people of color, because it's like, oh my God, I'm going into, they're all white, they won't understand me, into like, well, who cares? What do I get to lose kind of mindset. And I think that is the approach that as Latinas, we need to take through all of these things, right? Taking the dare, taking the risk, taking some chances, smart chances, right? Educating yourself on all those different elements. But how do you feel the market, not Europe, like, how do you feel, just in general about making sure that we think about investing in commercial real estate as a long-term investment?
Oh, I think it's important, and it's definitely a great source to diversify your portfolio. When I sit down with clients and I try to break it down to them in a way they can understand, I usually show them a graph of my portfolio. And what do they see in my portfolio? That's diversification. And I also share the story about when the first market crash occurred, right? Back in 2008. I didn't understand the market well enough. I just knew I was worried and I was panicking because everybody else was worried and panicking. Many people were going under when it came to their homes, right? We didn't, but we were pretty conservative when it came to our earnings and our spending, but we did see a lot of people under us, around us, lose their home. But when I think about it, I remember seeing the value of our home just completely drop, right? And that was very disheartening to me. And it was like, I don't even know why did we even buy a house? We should have just been renting the rest of, all these thoughts start processing. But it's later, when you start doing your research and educating yourself, holding a residential or even commercial works the same way as the stock market. Even though we're seeing the value of our house drop, it recovered, right? It eventually recovered. And it's just like the stock market. So long as you're not trying to sell, and I saw this happen to many around me where the stock market is down, you start panicking and you sell. I'm trying to get out because I'm going to lose everything. And it's like, no, that's when you just have to be the most
Write it
patient,
out.
write
Yeah.
it out. And it's actually, if you have more funds stashed anywhere, consider buying more,
Yeah.
right? That's when you buy. And that was even my own experience, just in real estate residential. It was like, oh my goodness, the market is gone to, fill in the blank. But
Yeah.
um I all the emotions. So I can only imagine today too, with what we're hearing with the recession and inflation, it's now I feel like I'm constantly like a broken record, like, don't worry, don't panic. Oh, the value of my house has dropped. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to write it out. But it's also
Mhm.
important how you've been managing your money, because it's during recessions that people get wealthy if they know
Mhm.
how to take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely need some training on that. Maybe you do a workshop for us on
Yeah.
just that whole schooling for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We could talk about finances and every aspect forever. There's always something. And also the
yeah.
other thing, when talking about finances, keep in mind finances, our economy is ever evolving. So I'm always
Yeah.
concerned about who our community is talking to, because I want to make sure that they're up to speed with what's going on today, right? Like the debt
Yeah.
ceiling, how
Yeah.
how how would it impact? How can it impact you? And understanding, the changes that continue to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because to be honest, I don't even consider the debt ceiling because, and that's my naivety in that aspect, right? Because I'm like, they just keep printing money and the system's kind of a little bit broken. So like, I worry only about and writing things out, right? But I do think it's important to learn especially when it comes to trading, because we hear so much about index funds,
Mhm.
S&P, or just if you're interested in particular companies that you want to invest in. Um, and while all of that, I think, right, you need a little bit of everything in your portfolio.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what is the right way to build something versus, as my, in this generation, it's like we're guessing almost, right? Yes, we have a little bit of knowledge,
Yeah.
but the rest is like, I don't
Yeah.
exactly know, or I need more information on that. So because of that, I don't make any decision, right? Whereas me, maybe having doing something, where you're kind of taking us through that, so we know, all right, Jolie, what's the right way to build a
Right.
portfolio
Right.
that
And
is,
and there's really no right way. It's just what's the best approach for you, right? And
yeah,
it's also understanding the many different products that are out there that allow you to protect your money. As far as, and I'm going to mention the debt ceiling again, because I had a conversation recently with a client, and she just recently got laid off, but she's just about hitting retirement age. But she has three 401k accounts from previous employers, from her last employer where she got laid off. And this is where you're about to be retirement age. You're about to hit 67, and you need to protect that money. Ignoring your 401k once you're no longer with that employer could have, can affect you. So if the debt ceiling, if matters aren't resolved for the better, the stock market's going to take a hit. Like it's already looming. Like depending where this goes. So I'm reading about it. I'm watching it. I'd like to believe that, I'm sure they're going to raise it. They always do, but our
yeah,
stock market is probably going to take a hit. And in that situation, when you're at retirement age, your savings would take a hit, and you don't want that. So this is
yeah,
where, for me or my 20-year-old who has a 401k and is still young and has time to recover, it's okay, write it out. So if you're at the retirement age, you don't have time to write it out. You need that
yeah,
money to live your retired life. So how do we protect it? How do we cap it? And there are products out there that would allow you to roll over your 401k so it's protected. So if the stock market drops, you're capped where it's not going to drop. You're not going to make any gains, but you're not going to lose what you have. So these are things that we are not very well educated on. Nobody talks about, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So you have one of, before we kind of like close it, and there's so much more. I think we need to like divide this up into different sections for sure. But you have a book that's coming out, right?
Yes, yes. So next week, May 25th, it's the official book launch of Latinas in Real Estate Volume 2. I'm really excited, and it's pretty much, you know, sharing our stories. My goal, and it's an anthology, so you have 20 authors co-authoring, and my story is pretty much what we talked about, like trying to change the narrative within commercial real estate, making sure that there are more people that look like you and I in the boardroom, making these deals, you know, acquiring the wealth that commercial real estate has to offer, but also the perseverance and the triumphs of other realtors, whether commercial or residential, that have persevered in the industry. There are a few other authors that have, like, a Latina that owns her own construction company, and that's quite a story to share. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful book. And I think that if it's something that you're thinking about making your way through residential or commercial real estate, I highly recommend the book. And it will be available on Amazon.
That is so awesome. I love it, and I look forward to that coming out. And congratulations, that's great. All the women, right? It's one when you have your story and you can share your perspective, because, like you said, there's not a lot of people that look like us, so it's hard to read other books where where we don't have that. We don't have others that are in the same field. Therefore, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to come up against, or the younger community as they're coming up, or whoever's doing it, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of power in storytelling, and right now I think we're in a good time, in a time period, to share our stories.
It's important, right? Because the people relate to us and they see themselves, especially as women of color, in those images. So, and then even Topher and trading and investing and real estate, right? Which is
absolutely
critical for us. But oh my God, Yoly, it's been a pleasure having you. Definitely want to give you the mic to share any last words, or recap, give us kind of a core message takeaway. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thanks again for having me. This was a pleasure. And I just want to share, you too can be a millionaire. We are all millionaires. We just need the right guidance. So if you're looking for a free financial needs analysis, feel free to visit my page at www.wealthwithyoly.com. Thank you again, Sandra.
I love it. I love it. And thank you guys for tuning in to this week's Cafecito Power Break. To become a member of United Latinas, you can go to unitedlatinas.com/membership. Also, we just recently launched the Latina Speakers Club. So if you are a Latina looking to gain your voice, or you have experience speaking and you want to be part of the community overall and get listed in our directory, definitely connect with us, United Latinas, and sign up if you're not currently a member, to become and share. We got lots of events coming up, because what speaking really allows one to just get some confidence, right? Whether you want to speak in public, or whether you need to speak in a boardroom or at a meeting, or negotiate a deal, right? In a table that could potentially be intimidating if you're not readily prepared. So I invite you guys all to join us. We're doing some great things, and thank you again, Yoly, for this powerful conversation. I can't wait. Stay tuned, guys. We're gonna have a workshop on Yoly's wisdom on how we can find and build a portfolio that works for all of us. So excited for that. So thank you guys for this week's for joining us for this week, and we will see you guys soon.